Previously on The Empire's Edge.
It took you to probably the biggest city that's anywhere in Southland. But then when you try again with Carn Keldley, it brings you right back to the same view you had with Schepanov's mission.
What in the world?
I wanted to look into any records kept in the temple or elsewhere in Warland, indicators of Schepanov's mission, trying to narrow down the search a bit.
Out of this thing, like kind of floats this block of amethyst. It looks like the individual little balls of stone are making words. Your quest awaits you in Schepanov's mission. Schepanov regrets his crime and holds the trunk of the Adlai in the nave of his praying hand.
So I'm going to say out loud, he was sending it to Sylvain Vidborg and Vatran X, so he
What
knows
does he do?
that I know his thoughts.
His head swivels so fast toward you. He's like, what?
And I'm just going to give him a little grin.
He seems even more intimidated right now. And again, you can't help it, but you're hearing in his own head that his name is Rolf Lynch.
I am ready for a drink.
But there's something so large brewing in this region.
Perhaps we travel as part of the honor guard of an ambassador.
You're now in command of a unit of 8 cavalry soldiers, and I'll supply mounts to the 3 of you to send you down there as a guard. Then the plan is set. This is how it shall work. With your night guard you're in command of, with the equipment that you've contracted to have made, with lines established of communication with the druids, that you depart and head for Arkland Barony and the city of Carn Keldley. All right, the party is 2 days out of Warland. You just left the whole celebration, getting your mission. You have this group of 8 knights, really they're cavalry, that are reporting to you, Boris, and of course the ambassador himself and his entourage of 4, and then all of you. And you're traveling together as a group. But again, you're 2 days outside of Warland when Zelen, a bluebird, lands on your shoulder.
Oh, hello, little bluebird. Do you have a message for me?
It does. It starts communicating immediately and tells you right away, important news from the Baroness. The Baron has been assassinated.
Wow. I thank the bluebird and release it, and then immediately go to find Boris and Jacob. And
I'm probably like
Right
4 or
next to
5
you.
feet
yeah, I don't know.
away.
You know, I didn't know how many. And
You ride up like glop, glop,
yeah,
glop.
but I'm gonna tell I'm just telling the 2 of you. I don't. If we want to share this news more widely, I want a controlled share. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell the 2 of you
I
what the
call a
bluebird
halt
just told me.
so we can get a bit of distance.
Okay.
And so, yeah, the rest of the party moves on. The overall party moves on from you guys.
Or would you not?
Other
stop
way
everyone?
around. I call a halt, then we move away so we can
gotcha.
convene.
Okay, so they're behind you now.
Would you want the ambassador in on this too?
I would think so.
Makes sense.
Do we know more
He's
about
the-
this mysterious ambassador man that stayed locked away?
yeah,
in
At
his
least his name.
His name is Vedran Yanovich, but you didn't meet him. He was there at some of the meetings. It isn't so you guys have interacted with each other.
But we know enough about him
We've
that he would
interacted with
be,
him for a couple of days.
he'd be someone we would invite into this meeting.
You would feel comfortable sharing this news with him, and it makes sense that he should know it.
Yeah.
But you don't find him to be a very agreeable person.
Yeah.
That he's off-putting.
Good
Yeah.
negotiator.
Okay, so when the 4 of us then are gathered together, I'm going to say I just received a message. The Baron is dead. He's been assassinated.
Well, then we need to go back immediately.
And of course, Vedran Yanovich is immediately like, wow, what happened? It's just, how'd he die? What killed him? And Zelen, you notice that the bluebird that you sent away hasn't gone away. It's just been circling in the area, and it comes back down and lands on your shoulder, and it whispers in your ear again, the Baroness, Genevieve Cutler, implores you to proceed on your mission and to continue to Carn Keldley.
I don't have any more information. This is my messenger. We could try asking questions, but generally they don't know more than what they've been told to repeat. The Baroness is encouraging us to stay on our mission.
I mean,
I dislike not being there to root out whatever did this.
but at the moment she's the boss, right? If her
Yeah.
husband died, she would be in charge. She gave us an order.
Yeah.
Right?
Right, and it isn't like she just, the message communicated was that he fell downstairs and died. It was definitely assassinated.
I'm going to
Yeah.
ask the
Was
bird
killed.
if there is any more information that it has to share or any
Cause of death.
Details.
any details, anything that maybe it's picked up.
The only word that it has, as though it was the last word of detail given to it to give to you, it simply says conspiracy.
Rex.
That's the reasonable assumption.
Yeah. So, I will share the word conspiracy, but I don't think we should speak Zrex in front of the Baron. In front of the ambassador, because we don't know what side the ambassador's on.
That's a good point.
But I will share the word conspiracy. Do we gather the troops and have a moment of respect for the Baron, and then move on? I think it'd be better if they heard it from us, because once we hit the city, they're going to hear it.
I'd agree. Does the ambassador have any comment on that?
He says, I fully endorse that. That is the exact proper thing to do.
How agreeable.
Okay. So then I'll call a dismount. We'll kind of go off the road a bit, and I'll host I don't want to spend too long on it. We do have a mission, but a respectful memorial service.
Okay.
To
No
kind of break the
speeches,
news.
just kind of the Baron was a good man.
Kind of a brief eulogy.
the religious
moment of
bit.
silence. Yeah.
Right.
And then we're mounting back up to secure this deal in his
Would it
name.
be
Continue
improper
our
to pour
mission.
one out for him?
No.
Okay, cool. I do that.
Okay, yeah, I forget what do you have with you?
I think it might be
Water.
water, actually.
So, yeah, that's not really Roden Cutler's thing, but that's is still the respect there.
Vedran's a hardcore alcoholic, and he's got his main flask, his
He's actually
secondary
just-
flask, and all 6 of his backup flasks.
He's just riding in the bar cart.
Do we have a bar cart? Why
So-
am I not riding back there?
As you guys remount up, get back into your traveling order, and you're heading out. Boris, go ahead. As you're noting the reaction of your men.
Yeah, I was about to say, that I'd start up, a song or something to try and lift spirits after that kind of, gloomy news.
Do an insight
Okay.
check on your men.
16.
What you're getting for them, that you heard the name Roderick spoken, which is Roden's son, who presumably the next Baron. He's a young man,
The
but
heir
he's
apparent.
old enough, right? That when the name is spoken, it's spoken with a question mark, and 2 of the guys look at each other and kind of roll their eyes. They're like, "Oh, great." And then there isn't any more said about it, but that's just what you were
That's a
getting from
lot
it.
said about
That's
it.
a lot, yeah.
So I'll keep that in the back of my mind.
What was it? 80% of communication is nonverbal.
Yeah.
Can I do an insight specifically on the ambassador? with-
There's a thought.
Yeah, great idea.
23.
Dang.
Wow.
Yeah, you're getting a great read on the guy. As difficult as he is, and again, he's been one of his own assistants has done most of the cooking as you guys have been traveling, setting up the camp for their equipment and their gear. And he just tends to stand around or sit around and doesn't interact with anyone that much. But as you guys are getting back to your own mounts, he is talking, like pulling all of his assistants to him, the 4 of them, and he's nonstop talking about, here's how we'll present this. We've got to say things like this. And he's already like working damage control when they get to Baron Miles Fleetwood in Arkland, that he's already working out what he needs to say, how he needs to do it. And as over the course of the next hour while you're riding, it looks as though he's practicing it, what he needs to say, what he needs to do. So he seems completely enmeshed in his job, but totally focused on his job. What's 23 is what you rolled?
Yeah.
There is nothing that indicates he's like, oh, eyebrow raise. Yeah, the murder has happened. There's nothing like that.
Yeah, but there's also, an ambassador is usually someone that had a relationship. You generally don't send a stranger to negotiate something that's important. So there's no reaction from him regarding the loss of someone I would think would be a friend.
Very emotionally closed, like he's not going there.
He's just,
Yeah,
it's not necessarily
given
there's
that he-
nothing written on the pages. He's just a hard book to read.
Well, but
Or he just is very shut down.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're
Or he's
emotionally very shut down.
Completely.
Grieves by working, like I grieve by smiting. So,
Right.
nothing new here.
Or that he's the kind of
Interesting.
person you'd want as a negotiator because he's not going to have any kind of a tell.
No,
Right.
no,
Or
yeah.
just crack under emotional pressure.
Right.
Very true.
But you guys proceed, and you're on the road for, let's see, I said that was 2 days out. That right around that same time, you're reaching the branch in the Arkland Road that will take you east toward Carn Keldley. You've been heading further and further out into the open plains of Southland. this wide open, barren, grasslandy area. And Carn Keldley is back toward the Brimroar Hills. It's back up into the hill region.
So kind of circling around a bit.
It's you've been slowly bearing toward the west as you've been going further and further south.
Okay.
This road is now bending toward the east, and you know that if you stayed on, well, it's actually you're at a branching point. That if you were to stay on the main road, it would just go right through Arkland into Point South. This branching road is going to be meeting a branching road that comes off of the northbound road, so to speak, and they unite a point just like a half a mile or so to the east, and then they join up and head straight into Carn Keldley.
So is it a T intersection or like kind of like a peace sign as these two roads come in?
Kind of like
with the middle road in the center.
A little like a peace sign, or a Y. I could see both of those analogies.
Okay.
But it is, in essence, a T intersection, just that they've cut off the corners to make it easier to travel.
Got it.
And the T's on its side. But that you're at that juncture. And so within another hour and a half or so, we're getting into late morning as you are approaching the confluence where the road from the south is meeting the road from the north as they're both now heading east. You can see there is a large caravan that is also proceeding along the road, and you'll be reaching that point of confluence at about the same time. Go ahead and make perception rolls, even from the distance of the few miles away that you are from each other.
Ooh. Oh.
I was wondering if you were going to be conscious of that.
Oh, no.
Why?
As soon as I did it, I was immediately conscious
That noise, the ew, every time he has a good roll.
10.
22.
Damn it. 21.
Well, the two of you notice that, Boris, start there. You just know that it's a whole big bunch of wagons and whatnot. Looks like some kind of a convoy. Like, when did they invent convoys? But for the two of you, you notice that these wagons and the various vehicles are completely unusual, that they're not just trade wagons that have happened to reach this confluence of roads at the same time, that there are wagons that look like they're cages on wheels.
Like a prison transport? Or?
Yeah, like that would be a good first impression. But then some are very ornate wagons, almost like small houses on a cart that you could live in, and they're decorative. They have scroll work in the wood of them. They're contained buildings, so you could be definitely protected from the weather. Painted, bright colors, flower patterns. And then as you look, you see large things moving too, and be animals you would have never, ever seen before this far north, even though from the Confederation of Dutchy's point of view, you're pretty far south. There are elephants in this train.
Do we even recognize what an elephant is? Do we even
heard rumors of these mythic elephants?
Okay.
It would be something like that, except they're still elephants. They're not oilifants. Yeah.
I was about to make a reference to a coat of arms, but that's a giraffe, not an elephant. So never mind.
Are there giraffes?
There might be.
Oh, nice.
So
it's a very large caravan, and we can't see the giraffes immediately.
I hadn't thought giraffes, so now I'm thinking it.
See the people, or are we too far away yet?
You're too far away yet. There are some very large, looks like people walking, but they're not that much bigger than a regular person. But there seems like something wrong with them. They're not exactly people because they're moving. But you realize and put it all together, because you've heard of this before, the two of you that are more local to the region, both Jacob and Zelen, you think it's a circus that's traveling up from the south somewhere, that comes through this area and probably rarely gets any farther north than Carn Keldley, and then would start rotating itself south again.
Are there a lot of circuses, or would we be able to know like a few names, or be able to kind of know, oh yeah, if there's a circus here, it might be this one?
You know that it has to be Cirque Roscus Illusia. It is the only circus you've ever heard of traveling through this area.
Boris, have you ever seen a circus? Could that be a circus?
Have I seen
there'd be circuses
Maybe you've seen
of
this
sorts,
exact one,
but never this one.
It doesn't get any further north than Carn Keldley. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Roscus Illusia never travels, that you would have ever known, would never travel into the Confederation of Duchies. If it did, on the very, very southern baronies, but never as far north as where you've come from.
With my inspection being emphasized, I'm going to characterize it generally as being on the wagons and not the populace.
Okay.
How many wagons am I estimating are in this train?
Just do that as a perception, I suppose.
Okie dokie.
Giving it that distance quick.
Natural 20 for a 23.
Nice.
Wow.
Like 50-ish?
I call a halt.
Okay.
That's a big, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's huge. It's
general
absolutely huge.
halt, and honestly, with that size and to give a bit of distance too, I'm just going to call an early lunch.
Okay.
How-
So
how-
everything stopped. Yeah.
How close are we to the actual meeting point of the two roads? Like when we're actually
About
stopping?
a half a mile. So
Okay,
you're
and we
pretty
can see
ding-dang
the other
close.
road, like across like the plains. We can see it coming
Right.
down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Intermittent trees, but it is pretty open right
So
here.
at some point they'll get within a half a mile of us, so we'll be able to take a pretty good look at them as they pass.
Yeah. You could get even closer if you wanted to. He's called a halt to it, but yes, right now it's happening right now.
Okay, so as they're walking past, can we look at the people and see, are they like happy looking?
Maybe we ride up to the
friendly
actual
looking?
intersection and
Well,
we can
they're
actually
a
get even
half a
closer.
mile away. We
Well,
could
yeah, but I
we
mean,
could
half a mile's
see
still a good
if they're
distance.
threatening or not.
It'd be tough to tell facial expressions at half a mile away. That's still pretty far.
What are you, an elf?
But you can tell that there seems to be a mixture of races. That there is human. That there are very like shorter people. There are thinner people.
The
there-
weird, big, not people things.
Yeah, there's big weird not people thing that have mandibles. There's only a few of those. You've seen
what?
some. Yeah, they're very unusual. Like maybe
It's a person with mandibles?
it looks more like it's like maybe almost like an insect or some kind of a seagoing something.
Bipedal?
Bipedal,
quadrupedal?
yeah.
And
Like
just walking with all the
large,
people.
about 8 feet. They have huge packs on their shoulders. So they're look to be beings of burden, whatever their actual function is in the circus. It's tough to say.
I've got to guess about what they are because I spend way too much time with my nose in the monster manual.
Was it mandible was too big a giveaway?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty short list that, is mandible and is bipedal. Arcana check to see if Boris knows from,
Some study? Sure, go
yeah,
ahead.
obscure
Yeah.
education.
Knock yourself out.
9.
I would say no
Okay.
on a 9.
See, when I was saying like, oh yeah, so there's like walking among all the people, you were going to correct me and say, oh no, they're in the cages, but they are actually like
They are
carrying.
walking, yeah.
Okay.
I want to ride up and see what this is about. I'm
How-
very curious
How
about
close
this.
you close enough to see the whites of their eyes?
Yeah, I want to ride
It's like
forward.
right up to the intersection.
Right up to
itself
the
as it's
intersection
passing,
and
yeah.
watch them as they pass.
I'll go with her to not make her go alone.
Robertson,
All right.
you go too.
Okay, yeah. So one of the 8 pulls off from the rest of the group and goes forward. All right, so the 3 of you ride up to it. So you're there very, very quickly, and as you're getting up to it, yeah, these things are large, about 8 feet. These insectoid-like mandibled creatures. But you also know with the elephants as well that most unusually there's 2 different animals that look like I would say lizard-like. You've fought lizards that are very serpentine. Slithery things. These are like tanks, and they have a massive like ball of.
We know what
either-
tanks are?
Yeah.
Sweet.
And cement mixers.
And tacos.
So
like a big ball of like bone on the end of its tail. A
as
short,
we're
club-like
standing at the
tail.
intersection, and
Yeah.
this really interests me.
Yeah.
Are people like glancing at us and smiling and like being happy to see us, or are
Doing
they kind of
cartwheels.
flipping us a finger as they walk past? Or...
Oh,
Yes, they seem very
Given that
happy.
this-
Okay.
Never
So
mind.
I'm going to, if there's somebody who seems particularly friendly, I'm going to ride, and it'd be better if they were riding a horse so we could kind of keep pace.
do
I'm
any
gonna,
members of the traveling circus look local?
I'm going to. Do they have a string around their neck? I'm going to.
Are the big mandibled insect beasties are they native?
Are
to
they
this
friendly?
area? Are they
I'm going to ride up beside somebody who
I
looks
bet it's
friendly and try to make
carapace.
friends to see if I can find out what these things are.
Okay, just give me a D4. Which one of my
D4?
a 4-sided
pointy
dice?
one.
It's the
2.
Yeah, so actually there'll be horseback, that'll be this guy. All right, so you ride up to a person who looks to be in charge. You're not sure of what because he seemed to be moving around as he's riding on his horse up and down the line, and then sees you riding closer, and so he peels away from the caravan moving along the road and comes over to you and does what would be tantamount to like a bow from horseback. Puts one arm down, takes his hat off, and he says, "Alaban Clark at your service. What may I do for you?"
I'm Zelen. We're heading to Arkland. Are you heading there as well?
We are immediately.
Are you a circus?
We are.
What circus
not
are you?
myself by myself, but yes, I am part of it.
I am.
A part of the Cirque Roscushaluzia.
What are those things with pinchers?
Mandibles? Yeah, those are called umber hulks.
Umber hulks.
A very, very dangerous something, but truly it brings the people to the Cirque itself to see something so extreme.
But they carry things for you.
They're trained?
The trained would be an unfair word. We have an agreement with them, and the agreement keeps them from pursuing their natural tendencies.
They're intelligent.
They are. As intelligent as most people.
What are the other large animals?
Elephants.
Elephants. And what about the ones with the long tails?
I mean, they're actually shorter tails. They're like have a club at the end of it, like a big ball.
The club tails.
Those are a kind of a lizard monster from so far to the south and the west. I've never seen them in their own habitat, but I was told they were called ankylosaurs.
I love animals. What other kind of animals do you have? Is there anybody who specializes in animals?
Many, but I myself am the big cat handler. We have tigers, lions, leopards, panthers.
Can I meet them?
Meet them. I couldn't properly introduce you to them.
I can introduce myself if you'll take me to them.
Right along. And so he, rides up. You catch back up to where he had been.
I wonder if he knows what a druid is.
How fast are they moving to the point, like how far are we getting from our own group?
Not very fast.
Okay.
They're not moving that fast at all. Just, as fast as an ox would walk.
Anyone,
some of the cards.
While she's going over to look at the animals, does anyone else look particularly inclined to have a conversation or interested in the two of us or the three of us, I should say, as we're standing here?
Everyone seems to have interest, but they also look as though they're used to, attracting attention that way. They all seem very agreeable because they want people to come to the circus to pay their money. And you can see just ahead of where you are at the confluence of these roads, you're heading into what's got to be the farms and the fields that are supporting the city of Carn Keldley. So you're heading into a relatively more populated area. It's just patchworked with farms all over the place. So there are people that are coming out down lanes here and there along the road as this procession goes along it. So there's a lot of people, and they're very agreeable and amenable to all sorts of people.
How about
you can certainly just approach somebody randomly.
I'll look for someone who looks more in charge, like they'd be one who I can get answers from for what they're planning on doing, like when they get to Carn Keldley.
Okay, gotcha. So go ahead and roll it as a percentage for this one.
Okay.
And if I can see the cats, one of the things that I want to do is study them so I can potentially turn into them, because these are animals I never otherwise would have been able to add to my repertoire of possible animals.
Yeah, that's a very cool idea.
Nice. I got a 36 on that percentage.
All right, so as you're looking for a person that would be somebody in charge, there's a lot of people, there's people that are running the wagons, somebody who's walking, but they look more like the roustabouts, just the kind of the laborers that do the whatever, setting stuff up. And various races, probably a lot of like workers who just do the whatever. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to somebody that's not a villaman, my milieus, elves, or humans, you even see people that have horns coming out of their heads. And that would be a new one for you personally.
Yeah. But, I've only seen horns on trees and animals.
Right. That's very different. But you do see that a woman comes riding up, and just by the nature of her clothes, she looks as though she's a person that must be in charge of something. She's just not wearing workaday clothes. So do you ride over to intercept her?
Yeah, she looks reasonably important. I'll talk to her about what they're doing in Carn Keldley.
Okay, so as you ride up, how do you introduce yourself?
With what's our title? What was the fancy? Sir, yeah. So I introduced myself as Sir Jacob Treadstone.
Dracob.
Did I say that?
Yes, you did.
Oh, she don't say that.
Dracob, it's nice to meet you. No, it's canon.
It's what happened to Drake and Josh if they went through the fly.
Oh, man, yeah. I ride up to her and I say, hello, I'm Sir Jacob Treadstone, coming down the road from Warland.
She smiles and gives you kind of a look like from like the crown of your head to about the middle of your torso, because you are not dressed like a sir. So she's probably going to try to determine if you're on the level, whatever it is you're saying right now. And she rolled really poorly. So
he needs to roll his persuasion to see if he rolls really poorly too.
Oh, this is a good point. All right,
go ahead and see what you...
Hey, not poorly. Persuasion is an 18.
Yeah, so it looks like she's buying it.
What do you mean buying it? I told the truth.
That's right.
Probably the magic armor
But
and
it's the-
great
it's the-
big honking bow.
Yeah.
It's the 80% that you're not saying that communicates that you don't look like a
The
sir.
fact that I screwed up my own name. She's like,
But she says, a pleasure to make your acquaintance, Sir Jacob Treadstone. I am Inda Nur. I'm the assistant to the Master of Ceremonies here for the circus. So why? Well, why did you ride up just now to say hello to me as you're passing?
And I gesture behind us like we are a caravan coming in from Moorland. We are too headed towards Carn Keldley for business matters.
Marvelous. We can travel together.
Yeah, we'll probably going to be staying a good ways back just to make sure we're not too interspersed in case there's any issues. But we just wanted to check in and talk to you guys. What are you planning on doing when you get to Carn Keldley? You're here on business, or you just is this your home that you guys are going to be going there and then from there moving out?
Oh no,
and taking
our
vacation?
home, our encampment is well to the south, even outside of what you would call Southland. But the Circulusia is. This is the northernmost bend we make when it comes to our travels. We've never traveled further north than Carn Keldley to perform the circus. So we'll proceed to the city wall and set up just outside the city walls in the location where we always do. And it depends upon the take. We'll either be here for 2 weeks, maybe a month before we pack back up and head to the south once again.
Fantastic. Do you guys, when you get there, you say you set up outside the walls. Is there anything that we might be able to assist you with, or any questions that you might have? Like I said, we're on our way there as well. Have you been there before, you personally?
Oh yes, many, many times. I couldn't think of a thing you could help us with. We know our jobs very, very well, and we've set up here at Carn Keldley on many occasions. But it will be nice to know that we have an honor guard that is following us into the city. That's how I shall pass the word around up and down the chain.
Well, I look forward to potentially catching one of your shows or taking part in any of the games that you guys may have.
Wonderful. That sounds fantastic, Sir Treadstone. Oh, games. I'm not sure if you're interested in this. I see that you do carry a bow. But the third day into the circus, once we've set up, there will be an archery contest. So perhaps you could sign up and join the contest itself.
That feels pointed. I like that. I like that a lot. And I say, that sounds fantastic. No, I don't say ooh. David says,
once
ooh.
again, that 80% that you don't sound like you're a nobleman just went to like 92%.
That does sound quite enjoyable. I will for sure be taking part in that.
Marvelous. A pleasure meeting you. And then she rides off back to
Likewise.
give direction to various people that are going on that way. And thanks for the sound
Need to get
effect.
some coconuts.
Yeah. I've actually got a lovely bunch of coconuts.
Oh.
It's a song.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So you're going to be traveling.
This is why I stay with the troops.
It'll be about a day's travel once the roads meet to actually get to Carn Keldley, back up into the Brimroar Hills, back up to those higher elevations.
Did we want to do anything further with you and the cats or the animals there, or did you
No,
just
I'm
want
just studying
you
them.
just wanted to study
Once
I was
we're-
wondering if you were going to cast Speak with Animals and actually literally
That's what I thought you were gonna do,
introduce
yeah.
yourself.
No. The one thing that I will do, though, is find out if any of them, if I can hear it, if it comes up, if any of them knows about Baron Warland. Is there any gossip that maybe they have picked up through whatever sources or messengers they have that could add to our knowledge about what might have happened?
Okay, so roll it as an investigation.
19 plus
She rolls really, really well.
something, 22.
You are positive you've heard nothing
Oh,
about
okay, so
them
they
saying
don't
anything
know
about it
anything
at all.
about it.
They've not heard anything about this.
Okay, so once everybody kind of stops for the night, I'll go back to our party to because I'd rather be with our party in the evening, and I'm going to share just with Boris and Jacob. I'm not going to share with the ambassador or the other guy that was traveling with us that I've seen a number of cats and have been able to study them enough that I can add them to my list of animals I can become.
You might be
Impressive.
very aware that there's some animals that are just still too powerful
Sure.
to become, but there are definitely others.
But
that
I've
you- that
seen
you
them,
could.
so at some point I'll be able to use that information as well. And there's no way I would have known that without seeing them. And I'm also going to tell Boris the names of the two big animals because
Steve and Josh.
yeah,
the Umber Hulks
Drake
and the
and
the Umber
Ankylosaurus.
Hulk and the Ankylosaurus.
Right. Well, and when it comes to you guys like rendezvousing at the end of the day, so their camp is spread out across a mile
Yeah, I
where
believe
they
it.
set up their camp, and it's in the corners of fields, farms, and the road like runs right through it. So the road still means it's main artery to get from one part of their encampment to the other. When you get to the very tail end of that, you go about another 200 feet, and you can see where Boris has set up the camp with the remains of the soldiers and the ambassadorial entourage. And so that's how far away you are there.
And I'll
Remains. The other 7.
I'll also share with Boris that they don't know anything about Baron Warland's
It makes
death.
sense. They seem to be coming up from the south.
I just didn't know if they had anybody among them that might be receiving messages.
It's an interesting thought.
All right, so if there's nothing else then, the night passes, there are no issues, and you are, like I mentioned to Jacob a little while ago, you're in an area and you've traveled through the course of the day. Once you got past the confluence of roads, you're traveling through farmland. It seems like there is a huge area of cultivated farmland. There are buildings dotted all over it, barns and silos, houses, and they're pretty close. Like each individual might have something around 50 to 80 acres. And so you can imagine in a wide open region, that's a lot of little houses dotted all over the place. So there's no shortage of fresh food stuff. You are in the corner of somebody's field. Their house is probably just about 200 feet away.
But given that we're not thieves, we eat our rations.
All right, but I was just saying that you could go
Yeah,
to their door
sure.
and
Or we could
but could we
buy
buy a,
Just the police.
a ham? Yeah, really.
we buy a cabbage.
Can we
So-
knock non-threateningly?
So there's a lot of, hopefully, there's a lot of population around, a lot of people
Right,
around
yeah.
this area. And then as you travel through the course of the day, you are passing through all of that. So you're probably in the most, rural. There is no suburban. You're in a city or outside of it,
Yeah.
these regions. But you know that that anything you could probably want or need, every once in a while there's a little collection of houses that's not quite a town, but they probably have other gear and maybe even some trade equipment if you'd wanted something, just for future knowledge if you travel through this
Yeah,
area.
sure.
Yeah.
And then the next day, you pack up, everything moves, you guys are ready to move, and this whole circus caravan takes another couple hours to get their stuff together. It's so much to get them up and moving. Are you waiting for them, or are you passing through them and heading on into the city?
Passing through them.
Yes, if it's a 2-hour wait, I would.
Yeah,
It's a lot to get all that moving.
I believe it. I'd rather keep us moving.
And some elements of it are moving or are up and going at a very slow pace, much slower than yesterday. And you go right by that, nods, waves,
I'm going to wave to all my new friends.
yeah. So
The cats wave
they
back.
smile back. Yeah. And then later in the day, afternoon, like 1 o'clock-ish, you're approaching, you can see the Brimroar Hills being getting closer and closer, and you see little dashes of color, little flashes of light, and you know that's Carn Keldley, that it's in the hills going up into the hills. It wasn't made on a plateau. It's actually, on different levels and layers of the hills that go further and further up in this like lead wall of the hills on the edge of the plain. But as you get closer to it, Zelen, go ahead and roll I guess it'd be a perception as a memory, but go ahead and make a perception roll.
18.
That you recognize it. The actual wall that rings the city itself right at the base, and the walls run up like ribbons on their edge, running up. Then you lose a bit of the wall as it goes down into a little valley beyond it, and then up again and expanding around it. But then also the various spires, the temples that are there, some larger buildings as large as about like maybe 4 stories tall, which most of you would never seen before. Well, Boris would have. Jacob, you've never seen buildings that are that tall before. But as you're
You're
approaching
most
it,
of us, bud.
you say you realize it to yourself. You've seen this before.
So I'm going to ride, if we're not packed together, I'm going to get Jacob and Boris and say, I've been here. When I was a little girl, I traveled with the salt merchant. That's how I got to Gryan. I traveled with the salt merchant for a year. I left.
Morris Young?
No, not more as young. It was
Given that he was
it
just
a
starting
different,
out as a
it was
salt
a
merchant,
different.
I really
the only
doubt
name that I have to associate with salt
It was the
merchants.
Stalwarts. Hank and Margaret, they had come to my village, and I needed to get to Gryan. I was 8, and I traveled with them for a year all over the place. I didn't even know the name of this place, but I recognized this. I know this place.
And so out of Zellen's backstory that she had traveled for a long time coming out of the Confederation, she didn't even know where this place was, just that as a kid, her memory that, there was the look of how this looked, and those two things lined up again. So yeah, this is part of that history, part of your backstory that's come back to you again.
That's really cool.
I know. I don't remember much. Most of our time, of course, was in the Merchant District. So I could probably get us around the Merchant District. And I know there was a place with a lot of grass that I remember
We're
that I was
standing in it right now.
that I was allowed to play in inside the city, inside the walls.
I'm not standing. I'm sitting on a horse.
I remember that, but maybe as I get in, I'll remember more, and I can help us find what we're looking for.
Right
All
on.
right,
Yeah.
yeah.
With this newfound
Fantastic.
adrenaline and all this excitement.
Enthusiasm. We level up.
Yeah. Right.
So as the day goes on and you get closer and closer to it, I guess say within the next hour, since from the time you saw it, that you're traveling up to it, you can see from a tactical point of view, Boris, that the walls look very strong.
Mm-hmm.
You would say that these things, in some places, they're about 18 feet tall, some places a little lower, maybe 15. And then there's turrets that punctuate the wall at various points. And there's definitely a main gate to it. There's a large pavilion just outside of the main gate area that you could see that could be for tournaments, assemblies, anything you'd want to do, because it looks like Carn Keldley is the kind of place where there is not one level piece of ground in it.
Large enough that I'd bet that's where the circus is going to be setting up? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. And you could imagine, and we'll just put this as part of your own casual history from the time you lived in Warland, that that there have been tournaments that have taken place at Carn Keldley.
Yeah, sure.
And this would be where that pavilion green is too for those kind of tournaments. But yeah,
Okay,
it would make sense that they'd be setting up right here in this area.
So
All right.
So we're just outside the walls at this point now.
Yeah, you're riding right up to the walls right
Gotcha.
now.
And we left the circus a good distance behind us, so we don't have to wait for them for anything. We can just
We can just go through.
Yeah,
Head
go
on
Yeah, it'll be
in.
much later in the day
and
that they
present
finally show up.
ourselves.
Right.
Yeah.
So as
get
you get
presented. We're royalty.
as you get to
Or
the
nobility.
I don't know what the difference is.
Royalty rules the place. Nobility is just kind of there
upper
to-
crusty, the
yeah.
2%ers.
Nice.
Administrate.
We're crusty.
We're crusty.
The
Speak for
gate-
yourself. I bathe regularly.
The gates are open. It's a walled city, but there is an armed presence there. But it isn't like they're stopping or searching anybody as they're going into or coming out of the place. And again, right up to it, there's a fair amount of traffic. Carts, people bring
Right, yeah.
things in, stuff going out, riders, very important looking people going in both directions. There's always a lot of activity right there. And then as you pass through the gates itself,
I get us into a parade march.
oh, okay,
It'll look impressive.
very cool.
Do
yeah,
this
so
proper.
lined it up. Yeah, so the horses are in that march mode, almost going a little sideways as
Yeah.
they go forward. It's very impressive, and everyone stops and looking at it. Let me just give a couple reactions.
And then
to
the
people.
actual parade is 2 hours behind us.
Somebody else. The circus! The circus has come to town. It's marvelous. No, damn
One
you,
of
we're
you
not
shoot
part of the
that
circus. Ding. That as you're coming through,
Did we shoot him or spit on him?
the guards themselves that are on duty here, and it looks as though
We'd
there's
probably be streaming, Warlander pennant.
you would have to be, and where that isn't rare, it's uncommon that one of them approaches. And he walks up and he says, "My lord, I'm the corporal on duty. Of whom, may I ask, you're coming from?"
I'm Sir Boris Kirsanov, chief of the escort for the ambassador of Warland to Arkland.
I will send a runner on ahead to let the baronial staff know that you are on your way.
Proceed.
And proceed up to the highest point of the city. Follow this main road up through 3 ridges, and then you'll reach the top portion of the city.
Thank you.
And
We resume our march.
yeah, and he steps back off. It looked as though they came a little more to attention as you were interacting with them.
Oh, the boss is here.
That-
The inspector arrived.
I don't know who these guys are, but they look kind of important.
They seem to have they have nicer clothing on, so maybe
Their
they're
horses
those kind
march
of people.
sideways. We should stand atop.
And you guys proceed up through the city. Now, again, Warland might become a city like this someday in the future. It might even be the vision that they have. But this would be, I guess, for all of us and our listeners, it would be like an old world European city. That it has that look. It has cobblestone streets. It has buildings that are 2, 3, 4 stories dotted through it. Temples in it.
Roads based on goat trails, so they make no sense whatsoever.
And some areas, because of the nature is on a hillside, that a road just kind of knifes out into a little point. It just stops. It goes back to service those few houses on that, and then just dead ends because it's eclipsed by the hill and the wall coming up over it.
Glad the horse is doing all the uphill work.
And as you travel through it, it's for you guys, it's just another normal day in Carn Keldley. But for all of you, it would be like going to the circus because
I'm
never
feeling a
seen,
bit more at home.
Yeah, you used to like, oh yeah, civilization finally.
I can get a bath again.
But for the two of you, that is for Jacob and Zelen, that you've never seen such a group of humanity all at once. The open air markets, it hits you. And then for you, Zelen, for your adult brain, each moment you see something, people that are like, they're hawking various, fish and various plants and whatnot, that you're like, oh, wow, oh my goodness, that you keep revisiting and saying this again. So for the two of you men, that Zelen just doesn't stop. She's going the whole time about, oh, there was a thing right there. And then
I pulled such and such's hair.
Yeah, the salt merchant, her name was Miss Margaret, that she said this, that, and she just will not quit. And it's
and it
every turn
probably
of the
is so
road.
Perspective is so different for me too. It's going to be like, oh my gosh, I thought that wall was huge.
Yeah.
Not to mention the addition of a
I thought
horse.
that house was so far away. And
Yeah, that's great. So you're getting this description of the city from someone who saw it when they were a
Running
little
commentary.
Explain it like I'm 7, kind of.
kid. Yeah, like nonstop.
Thank you.
And it's the whole way up through the city, and it never seems as though it changes in like the population. But what you do become aware of, and you don't need to roll for this, would be that the further up you go, there's a little less confusion when it comes to things that are like how they're being sold in the markets. But there are still markets the whole way right up the city along some of the major streets and the adjoining streets. And there's always people moving. It's just that they're dressed better the further up the city you go. Until eventually you can realize it's like a city on top of a city, that's got to be not just a castle like Warland Keep in Warland, that this looks downright palatial, and it's behind its own particular wall that separates it from the rest of the city. And there, the gate is closed, and there are guards on duty. And as you step forward, they don't challenge you in a brutal way, but a person
Probably
does
the
come forward.
ambassador who does, now that we're actually with the ranking people.
Right, so I don't want to narrate the ambassador too much, but as you do that, you kind of give him a nod. Okay, I got you here.
Yeah.
that was my
Done
job.
my job.
You're on your own. So he introduces himself that he's Ambassador Vedran Yanovich, and
That, and I forgot his name.
and they actually look for credentials. He hands him a scrolled piece of paper. The man reads it. He nods. He delivers that to somebody else. It goes through like a little postern gate through the guard, and it goes inside, and you guys are kept waiting outside. You're not just brought right into it.
very different than Warland.
Yeah, right.
Right, and very different from the gate down that's at the bottom of the hill, that you can get into the city and
Downstairs.
do all downstairs. You can do all kinds of stuff
Practically.
inside the city, but getting into this part, that's very different.
It's almost like if you protect the guy who's in charge, he gets dead less.
Note to Warland's new government.
I wonder if they sell day passes here, because if I had to go through this every single time, this is going to suck.
So
Get a bracelet.
it is about a half an hour later.
Stamp the back of your hand.
A very important person comes out, nods to the ambassador, and he says, "I am your escort, ambassador, and I will lead you and your troop to the Baron," and turns toward the guy that seems to be in charge of all the soldiers on horseback. And he said, on the east side of the gate, there is a grazing area. Please have your cavalry take post there.
Understood.
And then to the rest of you may follow as well. And
I guess we dismount here, we leave our horses.
Yeah.
yeah,
We're on foot
and
now.
Hand them off to, pages and whatnot.
I give mine specifically to Robertson, or whatever you call that guy.
Yeah, Robertson.
and then the
He's a
group
good
of you.
guy.
So the ambassador, his 4 assistants, and the 3 of you are walking up into this palace. And like from our point of view, it would be going from like Warling Castle to this place would be kind of like going from, I don't know, your house to Versailles. It is such a marked difference. It's startling, the wealth in stone, woodwork, paint, high vaulted areas. It is truly palatial as you walk through this. And
I'm trying not to gape around, but I'm gaping around.
Yeah. So, and that probably would have been about where that would have ended. Zelen saying all these different things about, the city, that. Oh, we never got in here. Remember seeing it, but we never got inside here. Eventually, you're brought before the Baron, Miles Fleetwood, and it is as though he is the very emperor of the Corman Empire. It is most impressive, and you couldn't help but wonder, what is the source of wealth for this region? Because it's not that far away, and they seem to have had a lot of surplus in wealth.
Yeah.
So there's that thought that just pops into all of your heads. I'm not going to go into all the details about this, but he receives you very graciously, and immediately is talking to the ambassador, Veldrin Yanovich, and is saying a number of things about what's going to happen, how it's going to go, that 3 days hence will begin the actual baronial meeting, that we can have some discussion time, but that's where we'll begin the trade negotiations about this area of, what did you call it, Weldon, to see just how we'll allow...
Can we do an insight on him mentioning that?
Like
he just said passively, like Weldon, but we know he should know exactly what that place is.
What's that area called? Whatever.
Yeah, go ahead and roll your insight.
I am unconcerned with this thing I've been obsessing over for months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Insight is, unnatural 20.
15.
Oh, good. Mine was a 14.
Okay, so
Ha!
Jacob...
Selling you!
Yes, you do note that he's like, I'm going to treat this topic of, what is it you handed me this morning? I have to read this name and remember it when these people show up that I've been obsessing about for a long time now, that I'm very worried about because it could be the start of a major conflict or even war potentially, that I've got to get this just right, that there's a number of factors that the people that are actually populating this Weldon region were people that he didn't want to keep in Arkland itself. So there's a lot of tension there, let alone just that we're going to have negotiations of, can we run through your country a little bit while we get back to our own? Because that's the easiest road currently. And he probably doesn't know anything about what you guys know, and that is there's being a push made from two different directions. One from Shepton, or up to Shepton, and the other one a road that goes, through what was actually the old, either Old Bravis Road or is from the Kremlin Protectorate Road, to try to push away through those mountains to get, from Warland proper into this other region of Warland. But that could put him on a back foot if he suddenly learns, and you could imagine that the ambassador knows that to use that it could put him in a very poor negotiating position, that if he negotiates too high, they'll say, okay, well, forget it.
We've got our own plan.
We have our own ways to go through there.
So one of the things, and maybe potentially if I could roll that insight over, is we received news on the road on the way here about Baron Warland. Is there anything that I can see just in his mannerisms, the way he's acting, that there might be, he might know already, or he might not be letting on that there is something wrong?
I feel like I should do that too, but as there isn't a knowledge nobility anymore to recognize kind of courtly behaviors, but is he wearing a particular style of garment or additional garment that would imply mourning, even if it's just kind of social mourning and not actual personal grief?
Because that is a conversation we need to have with him.
Yeah, right.
There is. You would know that this man should have a number of different badges, fields of honor, different campaigns he's participated in, and whether the actual ultimate ruler participated in them or not is an issue. They still wear them.
Right.
That he is devoid of any of that kind of jewelry or accoutrement, which is a symbol that they are in mourning for one of their own.
Okay.
So, that is being
I'm
very
picking up on
notably telegraphed that is the case. Jacob, you've already made your roll. You don't need to remake it, looking into an insight for this guy. And you do get that very fact. You can tell that he is, in essence, prevaricating. As he's saying these things he has to say, he's leading up to something, and you can anticipate he's going to be talking about, from his point of view, he probably thinks he's telling you your Baron is dead. And so then once he goes into, says a few things, and my steward will find accommodations for you and your men. A residence is provided for you, my noble cousins, to stay and dwell here in our most remarkable city. And so,
Yeah, I give kind of the appropriate like half bow for the recognition, and just try not to smile at the stumble over cousins.
so
Yeah.
but you do know, and Jacob, it's to the point you're making a minute ago, that you are going to be staying in a place, a residence that belongs to, the Baron, that's outside of the city walls. So he's not
Not the main
Outside
walls,
the city
but
walls or the castle?
Oh,
castle.
sorry. Yeah, my bad. Yeah,
Okay.
outside the castle's walls.
Like,
but
holy
within
crap,
the
we're
city.
far away.
We found a lovely tent for you.
We got dumped out in
And
the circus.
A double-line waxed banana cardboard box. It's very nice.
Very warm.
But that
You
you'll be
guys
in
got a box?
you guys will be in a very, very nice residence in the city, but you're not going through. So it's either maybe he's concerned about all of you being a threat to his own security if he's got to keep armed people or dangerous people. So it makes you wonder what he's heard about you
Yeah.
specifically that he's not.
I do have a
letting in on.
sword and a hammer on me right
And an
now.
alibi.
You're right. Well, diplomatic tags as well.
Yeah.
But knowledge of that particular sword could have gone ahead of you too, because that's a rare thing. But he finally does lead up to it, and he does say, "It is my. It is horrible to say this. It's my regret to have to inform you that your Baron, the most noble Rodent Cutler, is now deceased. That he had died. What's it been now? 5 days ago. That he passed, or 3 days ago. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was talking
3
about
days.
days. Yeah, 3 days ago that he was the victim of an assassination in his own castle.
Make a persuasion check to try and convey the appropriate surprise. I don't want him to know that we
Okay.
received word on the road.
Go and roll the persuasion.
15.
You feel like you did a very good job. It's difficult to tell what he takes on that
Mhm.
because he's very aware of that courtly, nuanced
Right,
communication.
yeah. And I'm a bit rusty.
So you do get some kind of, like an eyebrow from him.
Mm-hmm.
That is, you're saying just that. But as he communicates this, he says, apparently there was some sort of a plot against his life. It seems as though there was numerous assassins in there, but there is a particular one of his own baronial guards, apparently a favorite of his, someone he'd been close to for years. I believe perhaps he even raised him like a son of his own from childhood, that this Warland guard named Casimir is being named a hero of Warland because he seemed to have been the guard who attempted to thwart this assassination attempt. And it's been communicated via cipher message to me that the baronial heir, Roderick Cutler, has taken the name of Roderick Casimir Cutler in honor of his late father's most loyal and dedicated his friend, even though they're from different classes, a champion of his heart, as his own new family name, Roderick Casimir Cutler. And upon approval of Lady Cutler, Roderick has risen to Baron of Warland. So, Boris Kirsanov, you have a new Baron to whom you report, and when you arrive there again, must re-swear your allegiance.
Indeed, of course.
At that point, he's, you can see he's like frowning a bit. His face, communicates more than you would want it to. Without even that perception checks, you can tell that he's thinking things are going to be changing. That we're already getting to a negotiation, and now I'm negotiating with a variable. And then he voices it and says, I'm concerned that I do believe that the new Baron, the son, Roderick, who I do not know well, I believe that he might include a new enhanced security, that Warland might not be the open community that it has been for all of my lifetime, that it could be that it's on the point of change, and it might not be the same town that it was when you left upon your arrival.
It was already going
Yeah,
through
it
significant
stands to
change, and now it's just another potential variable. You're right.
Right. Well, and there's so many changes taking place there already. But
Well, hopefully we can reach a swift and reasonable conclusion so that I can return and offer what aid I can to the new Baron.
of course. And then he directs his attention to the ambassador, and he doesn't wave the rest of you off, but it does look as though he wants to have some time to himself. He walks down the couple of steps from the dais on which he was standing, and as his arms clasped behind his back, and the ambassador walks closer to him. And again, you can see that Yanovich might have been the perfect ambassador because nothing in his face communicates that he is in any way impressed that he was waved over away from everyone else. I'm going to talk to you personally right now. He looks as blank and emotionless as he had been before, but they're talking quietly, and an attendant there, very nobly and graciously, holds out his arm and directs you toward the door.
Okay, I was going to ask, are we getting them? Like, are we supposed to leave?
I took the cue and started, gave a bow or a salute as proper, and started to back away.
How am I supposed to react to that? Because that's awesome. I just love that so much. I was biting my tongue the entire time you were talking. Oh, this is so great.
As you guys are walking back out, the two guards that are flanking it are saying, "Yeah, that Casimir, what a thing to live to. I wish I could be a guard like Casimir." And he said, "I understand there's something about in Warland, in the center of their town, they're talking about building a statue. Wouldn't it be something?" But they're talking about it from the terms of, maybe we could do. He's our hero.
Oh my God!
That we're the kind of guy that could save a baron or try to save a baron and be immortalized.
Yeah.
Give their lives to the cause.
So you're taken back out through the main gate, and your entourage comes with you. It's the same 8 cavalry with you. The 3 of you, your horses. It's just minus the horses for the ambassador and his party of 4. And you are led to a particular residence that's not too far away, but it's definitely out in the city in a wealthy area.
I do have a question. Were we given anything that would help us get through these gates later if we had to come back into the castle walls for whatever reason, or just being recognized by the guards?
You are not given anything that communicates. You just get to come back in whenever you want.
Great. Because the papers that we used to get in the first time were the ambassador's papers, but
that could be an issue.
Like, we're supposed to be in charge of that guy. I would assume that we would have at least something.
While we're in Carn Keldley, the Carn Keldley guard does have precedence.
Okay.
So it's their purview, and then when summoned, we'll arrive.
Well, that totally won't come back to bite us in the butt.
Yeah, definitely might create some complications.
I can always get in there if I want to. So.
Well, not all of us can turn into birds.
Actually, she can't either.
Yeah.
She can, just not flying ones.
You see a penguin.
The guard just said this like, well, there's nothing in my resume about not allowing dodo birds in.
Is that not allowed? Nope.
He's wearing a tuxedo. Look at him.
He's obviously here for a special occasion. A few minutes later, you're at a residence that looks very, very nice. It would be like a city townhouse. It's in a wealthy area. One of you, he actually says to you that this part of the city is referred to as Garnsdale Gate. And it is a very nice region of the city. There's a servant staff that's always here. There'll be the cooking, food preparation. If you need messages sent to the palace, they're there for you. And then once you're brought into it, they really leave you in the front hall, the foyer to this room.
And who is the escort? Just kind of staff of the Baron, or is it actually somebody?
The escort was Captain Stu Weaver.
Captain Weaver, if I could impose on you, I have some curiosities about the city itself. Would it be possible for me to gain access to the archives at some point?
Everyone in the city is allowed access to the Veda Library, but it's a matter of what level of access. Most people, even a person like myself, I have access to maybe 15-20% of the various volumes and sections of the library. You would need to ask of the Baron himself if you would be granted a greater access than that. And he gives you basic directions from where you are, down the street, past there, and then look over that building, that tower. That tower right there is the Veda Library.
Thank you. Maybe I'll speak to the steward about it soon.
As you wish. And anything else while we're still in here?
I do have a question, and I ask him, do you know how I would get to Johann Street?
And he gives you directions, yes. And it's in a lower tier. It was like one of the lower ridges to the city itself. But he gives you direction back the way you came. And it gets a little confusing as he's saying this street, that street, because it does look like a mad squirrel.
Yeah.
You do out the city plans.
But
you could get in that general area and then probably ask again.
Okay.
But you can get down to Johann Street. And then what you're left there, there's a staff there. As you're walking through this place, it's a very well-appointed house, probably one of the nicer houses you've lived in or spent time in. But you set up your rooms, you get the things you want to do.
I'd like to ask if I could get directions to the park. I know there's a green space because I remember it as a child, and I would like to know how to get to that space.
The nearest park, one of the servant staff says, the nearest park is Garnsdale Park. It's adjacent to this quarter, not too far away, and she's giving you directions as how to get to it. That's lovely. So you used to live here in Carn Keldley?
I visited here when I was a child.
Marvelous. Well, it's very wonderful to see a person come back to the city.
Have you been here all your life?
I have, all of my life.
So as we're engaging in conversation, I'd like to, not obviously like I'm giving her the once over, but really non-threateningly look at every servant I see, because I want to look to see if I notice any of the symbols that we have encountered. Like we saw a corrupted knave symbol that was associated with the Zrek. We saw those joined circles, the
empty ring. Yeah,
exactly.
The steel cloud.
The steel cloud, right?
That Lynch had. Yeah.
Let's see. I'd like to see if I can see any of those symbols on any of these people, because I want to know if they're in our house.
Okay, gotcha. Well, roll that as an investigation, I would think.
That is a 16.
That as you're having this conversation, this is very polite, and it seems as though she doesn't want to get into strict conversation with you because she's not supposed to.
And I am a noble.
You are nobility, and she's not supposed
Doesn't that feel good to say?
So
she's got a job to do too.
So she's giving you directions. It's very much like, yes, my lady, and on the street there's something, and she gives you those directions, and you're looking at her, and then to the next person, that you do pick up on something. That one of the men that are in the staff, and the way he's dressed, you would think he is going to be like a chief butler. He's in a position, actually, as they're all lined up, of importance for this group. And you can see that, from that distance, that on whatever little badge is that he wears that indicates that he is a person that has some authority, it must have turned and flipped as he turned and talked to one of you or one of his own staff. And as he turned back, he got caught in the cloth and went the other way. And you can see that there is a pattern on that. And as you take a look and look closely at that pattern, it looks very much like that other pattern that's been described to you, that you saw in that one symbol that Boris had. It looks like a steel cloud.
Thanks for listening, and welcome back to the Empire's Edge Brimroar Hills. Share your thoughts and feedback with us on Twitter at The Empire's Edge, and follow us on Facebook and Instagram for updates. If you'd like to support the podcast, you can do so on subscribestar.com/the-empires-edge.
Hammer that I don't have yet.
Are you not
That
ready?
was a great sound effect.
The first thing I get was hammer, and then wiggle, 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 pop.
I thought you said you were ready.
I'm ready.
You say that,
Keep
then you
fiddling with your stuff.
I am a fiddler by nature. All right, go. Oh, that's me.